This is 1 in 36, a presentation of the Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 36 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism, and I'm very pleased to be speaking with two gentlemen who I know well. They're both neighbors of mine in the village of Rhinebeck, as well as all-around great people doing good work. So first, the mayor of the village of Rhinebeck, Gary Bassett. Good to see you, Gary.
Hello, Eliza. Good to see you too.
And also we have Joe Phelan, who is the chair of the Autism Supportive Community Committee, which we're going to hear all about today, and former superintendent of schools in Rhinebeck Central School District. So good morning, Joe.
Hello, great.
So I want to start, and I know you guys are going to kind of play off each other, and you feel free to do that because I know you do a lot of work together. But I'm going to start with you, Joe. If you could just give us an overview of what the Autism Supportive Community Committee is, and maybe, if you can, who sits on it, or give us an idea of the type of people who are engaged with committee work right now.
Sure. Well, the Village of Rhinebeck Autism Supportive Community Initiative and the committee that has been the driving force behind that initiative started, I think, a little more than 4 years ago. And Gary's going to talk a little bit about the genesis of this initiative in the committee. But we have tried to get as many community members as possible with a variety of backgrounds involved in the committee. We have educators who are involved in the committee. We have some fantastic people who are employees of the Anderson Center, who are members of our committee, who really bring the expertise on training and the autism spectrum to our committee. We could not do it without them, for sure. We would like to have more parents on our committee. We have had some parents on our committee, including those who have family members on the spectrum. We're always looking for more. Let's see, who else? We have a couple of retirees who are on the committee, who are former educators and current special educators. So we have a pretty broad spectrum of people who are interested in this topic and helping out. And that's really what we need, is people who have the interest and who want to make a difference. It's not just a committee to sit on. It's a committee to come to action to make a difference in our community.
Wonderful. That's great. Thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Gary, do you want to take it from there for a little bit and maybe take us back over those 4 years, back to the beginning, and give us some context for both how it came to be and why, in your opinion, as mayor of the village, it is so important to continue?
Excellent question. And absolutely, yes. So this really was a breakthrough concept from Anderson Center for Autism, who developed a thought of how can we get a community engaged in autism awareness. Most people know, listening to the radio, if you've met one person on autism, you've met one person on autism, and so the saying goes. They were working very closely with businesses individually and with parents, et cetera, and through their school. But to take a community and say, how can we get involved? They came to me, and they came to my office and presented this pitch of trying to create a model. And as the story goes, it took me 2 seconds to say yes, because this is so important to do, to have the ability to represent inclusiveness within our village, diversity within our village, and equality within our village. All of those concepts need to be brought in, and we need to embrace them at the village level and to work with that. So the concept was we would work with businesses within only the village of Rhinebeck. The villages that we work with, we had to go through a process of education and training. And the ultimate goal here is to have the businesses be able to hire people that are on the spectrum. You said you're now 1 in 36. Well, 4 years ago it was what, 1 in 54? Was it? Yep. You were called 1 in 54, and now you're 1 in 36. And think about the people that are available now that are on the spectrum that have maybe have an identity or don't have identity or identified as some way that we could now work with our businesses to get them employed. So we launched this thing, right? And this was pre-pandemic. And when we launched it, everybody was super excited, and it was so overwhelming to see how the businesses came to. And we launched a program called #OneThing. All we were asking for. Do you remember that, Eliza?
I do.
Joe was on our committee at the time as well, because we started out with bringing in stakeholders from the village, the school, the hospital, the chamber, and all of those organizations that could make the surrounded or made up part of the village. And that was the original formation. And then we launched it, and we had up to 20 people on the committee at one time. And we were doing #OneThing, which means we went out to businesses, we told them what we were doing, and we asked them to do one thing, whether it be lower the music, create a menu board versus a readable board, which some of our restaurants did, or make accommodations for people when they're coming in. And one of the biggest things that was so successful was our sensory safe kits. Mm-hmm. A lot of our businesses realized that they didn't have the tools at their desks or at their business to be able to, if there is a situation which comes about with all these parents are wanting to come and spend time in their stores and in the village, they just needed to be able to know that this community was there to support them. These sensory safe kits came in with tactile toys, touchable things, headphones if they needed, whatever kind of stuff that Anderson Center really devised the kits. And then we made them available to the businesses to be able to say, hey, that's your one thing. That's all. That's as simple as it was to get started, was just do one thing. 58% of the businesses launched immediately and has got involved. Not only that, our police department has the sensory safe kits in all of our police cars, and we have them in our fire trucks, because you never know when you're on a call with either one of those first responders, and they've used them. They've come in handy. That now that's a tool that they have in their repertoire as well. So it was like overwhelming, because people wanted to be part of it and join in being able to support, and the businesses thought that there was value in the return. And that's what it's twofold here, Eliza. It's not only do we want to help and educate people on what autism is and how you can work with people of autism, so there was an advantage to those people, but there has to be a payback for the businesses as well. So they were given a decal.
Yes.
And do you remember that little blue decal?
I still see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they put it in their window and identified them as being a member of the autism supportive community. Mm-hmm. And that let parents or individuals or anybody know that this was a place that had at least the concept and the idea of what to do.
Yeah.
So that was
absolutely.
The launch, and then the pandemic hit, and we had to go into a law, which we all know about, and now we're coming out of that law and just hitting full force with a great committee.
Eliza, can I riff a little bit on what Gary just said?
Please do. Go ahead,
because I don't think we can underestimate the importance of engaging our business community, and Gary's already addressed that. But part of our mission is also to increase awareness amongst people who not only live in our village, but who visit here, who shop here, not only tourists, but people who live in the Hudson Valley year round, to raise the profile of the need, not only in our businesses, but in our community more broadly, of understanding and acceptance of people, both residents and visitors, who are on the spectrum and who need the support that we can provide. So it's really broad. From the business perspective, I think, not to sound crass in any way, but for the businesses, it's good business. Because if you have that sticker on your window, people who have a family member on the spectrum are going to be more inclined to visit your business and spend time there and spend money there. But it's not just about money and improving business. That's part of it, certainly, but it's the right thing to do. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. And if people don't know about autism, they'll be less likely to be understanding, to be empathetic, and to be supportive in any number of different places. I'll tell a very, very, very brief anecdote that really is what got me involved with this committee. My wife and I were attending church in a community a couple hours away from here. So this is not happening in Rhinebeck. And we were at a church service, and 2 rows ahead of us was a woman with a young boy, maybe around 10 or 11 or 12-ish. And in front of them were some other people attending church. And the young boy started to act out, okay? Mm-hmm. And the people in front of them turned around. Now, this is in church, mind you, of all places, turned around and dressed that woman down and said, "Get your kid under control. We can't concentrate on what's going on here. You need to do something about that." And I turned to my wife and I said, "I bet that young boy is on the spectrum. And these people are doing exactly what they shouldn't be doing. At the very least, they could have gotten up and moved away if they were really not upset about it." And when I came back to Rhinebeck, I said to Gary, "This was my experience. And I feel like I've got to be part of the solution so that never happens in a place like Rhinebeck or any place else." So that's really what kind of pushed me over the edge. And she said, "You know what? If you think that you should be getting involved in that committee, as busy as you are in your work, go right ahead. I'll support you 100% because it is the right thing to do."
That's great. Thank you, Joe, for sharing that. And actually, It's a great place to take our break. You kept repeating the phrase, "it's the right thing to do." I say that all the time on this podcast because I have the pleasure of talking to people doing lots of different things in many different areas, but all related to somehow supporting or engaging, building awareness for, doing research around, employing people on the autism spectrum. And we all end up talking about how it often comes down to just knowing the difference between right and wrong, remembering that we all know that deep down and choosing to do what's right. So thank you for that. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come right back to 1 in 36. This is 1 in 36, the weekly podcast on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and we'll be right back.
There are a ton of social networking websites, but one stands apart for a very special reason. This one saves lives. It's MatchingDonors.com. MatchingDonors.com links organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. In the U.S., 22 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant, most of them for kidneys. If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you're someone in need of an organ transplant, visit MatchingDonors.com, home of the greatest gift of all, the gift of life. MatchingDonors.com.
Somewhere there's a river rushing through the woods while someone rushes through their day. There's a mountain looking up at the sky while someone looks down at their phone. A trail waiting to be walked while someone waits for a latte. This world is full of somewheres waiting for someone just like you. So go see yours at 154 national forests and 20 grasslands. And to learn more, visit nationalforest.org. The National Forest Foundation. See your somewhere.
And now, 1 in 36 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking today with the mayor of the village of Rhinebeck, New York, Gary Bassett, and also the chair of the Autism Supportive Community Committee in Rhinebeck, and the former superintendent of Rhinebeck Central School District, Joe Phelan. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show today.
Sure.
So I think you've both just sort of done a great job in the first half of the show describing the work of the Autism Community Supportive Community Committee, the Do One Thing hashtag, the history. Mayor Bassett was great. I had the privilege of watching a lot of that start and move forward prior to the pandemic hitting, and it was really exciting for us too. So we appreciate being a part of it. Everybody at Anderson Center who's been in various ways just involved to certain degrees. We love that partnership, and we, like you, see this as a model that has legs, so to speak, and really could impact so many more communities by following this model. And we certainly hope that happens. Gary, I'd love to throw this question to you. You're a longtime resident of Rhinebeck. I know that. I don't recall, but I believe you may have raised your children in Rhinebeck.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've been there for a long time, and now this is happening. And I think Joe, before the break, really hit on a lot of great points about it's not only about the business community, though that's a large aspect of the work. It's also about visitors, local or from far away. We know that Rhinebeck is becoming just a a hugely diverse mix of people from all over. But you've lived there for a very long time. Your children have grown up there. I think was a very sort of sleepy, small, quiet village for a long time. What is the importance of having a committee of these engaged, participating members of your community doing this work and getting back to it now that the pandemic is behind us in large part in terms of restrictions? Why is it important in your words?
All right, so I want to spin back on that because I want to spin back to the words that you use. It's the model, and it's the model that we're creating. Anderson Center came here with the concept and the idea. The village of Rhinebeck is implementing and providing how and where it can all be developed. So in the end, we have a model that we don't own this model. The village of Rhinebeck is not the owner. Anderson Center is really the concept and the owner. And so what we wanted to do was partner with Anderson to develop a model that could be shared across the country, across the world for all that matters. And it's not for recognition of the village of Rhinebeck. It's to be able to create something that anybody anywhere can use. As Joe can also remember, we've been here at the village, we've been contacted by over a dozen communities to say,
great.
We've heard about what you're doing. We see it on your website. Somebody told us, or we've moved here because of this. All of those great things that have happened as a result of this, but we've created a model that anybody can use. And we've talked to many communities, and now Anderson works with them and where they go from there. But it's not for us. It's for everyone. And that's what I want to say is important. It's about serving a class of people, not just here in the village of Rhinebeck, but all across the country, and how that's important. So to reference your exact question in terms of the dynamics, how it's affected the village of Rhinebeck, I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes. It's opened a lot of people's eyes. It says we took them through a process of education and then training. Right. And now we're working with more businesses to expand that training model so that they can become employers. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you have 1 in 36, that's a huge number of people that are in the workforce that can come and be beneficial to everybody. So it's created an idea or a concept that, can be carried out, but it can be carried out in terms of our businesses. It can be carried out in terms of people, but it's really about that awareness in terms of, again, what I said, diversity, inclusion, equality within the village of Rhinebeck. And if we can demonstrate that here, anybody can do it because there's just great people here that are receptive.
That's great to hear. And I agree with you that the ideal outcome here is to just keep this moving forward and expanding. I want to mention I'm a resident of Rhinebeck, and I have kids in the school district right now who obviously know what I do for a living and they know where I work. So they've had opportunities to be more, maybe get a little bit more awareness and understanding because of what I come home with every day about autism and the autistic community and how prevalent it is. And both of them have made friends with other kids who are on the autism spectrum. It's a different world that they're growing up in terms of understanding and openness and a real movement in general towards not just awareness, but acceptance. And hopefully, even beyond that moving forward. But I do want to point out that I walk my dog often through the village. And one of the signs that I love the most, I do see the decals everywhere. I love that. There's decals on the front doors of the school buildings. But there's also a nice sign that is on one of the parks. And I just wanted to mention that speaks to what you were talking about, Joe, before, that it's not, don't look for it just in the windows of businesses. While that is extraordinarily important because so many families raising a loved one with autism feel very isolated and can feel very much like they're not allowed or welcome in the business community, thereby seriously impacting their quality of life. The idea that you all took the time out to make sure that it's also just in these open settings where nobody's necessarily at a gate asking, but you're proactively telling the walker by, the person on the bike ride that, hey, this is something we want everyone to know, that it's not just this park, it's the whole village. Everybody should feel welcome and that it's accessible. So I just wanted to mention that. I smile every time I see it when I'm walking by.
Well, Eliza, that's a great lead into where that signage came from. And it goes to the idea of raising awareness in the village, in our region. And a year or more ago, a parent of an adult youngster, that's a contradiction in terms.
Maybe a young adult.
A young adult, thank you, who was on the spectrum, had an interaction with some people at a park, not a village park, okay, but a park in the nearby area, where that young adult was using the swing. Now, that young adult is a grown adult, okay, and some people in the park, other adults, parents, were giving that young adult's mother a hard time about how come he's on the swing and he shouldn't be using the swing, and the swings are for young kids and blah, 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 blah. So she contacted me and Gary and said, this happened to me and I'm really concerned about it. And of course, when we found out where it wasn't a village park, but the light bulb went off over both our heads. And we said, you know what? We better check the village parks to make sure that there's nothing there that is sending the wrong message about who can use the park equipment. And while there was no discriminatory signage there, we had the idea of putting that signage there to let people know that the playground equipment is available for the use of anybody who wants to use it in an appropriate, respectful fashion. And that, without drawing attention to autism in particular, sent the message that this park is for everybody to use appropriately. So that was like a spinoff. And that parent came to us because she said, well, I know you're part of a committee in the village to do something about autism. And we did.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd like to take that one step farther, because today what we're doing, looking now to where we are today in working with the committee, and one of the important things is it takes funding to maybe be able to make this work. And we're very thankful to the Thomas Thompson Trust, who gave us a grant, but we had to, it was a $20,000 grant, which we had to then raise $20,000 to get our $40,000 matching grant. Thank you for the word. But that matching grant, part of that money is now going to be dedicated to helping to design the village park to be an inclusive park. It's going through a renovation phase right now. It's managed by the Rhinebeck Lions, who put equipment, but we now have a partnership with the Lions, and hopefully we can raise this money to be able to make the equipment more inclusive for what gets installed in there in the future. So we're not only raising money to, do education and training and get technical guidance, or we're putting that money to use in the village to make our park a better place for everybody.
That is wonderful. And we are just about out of time. So I just want to piggyback on that real quick. If somebody listening is interested in either getting involved as a member of the committee or finding out more or making a donation towards the type of initiatives and programs that you're continuing to work on, especially with this generous opportunity through Thomas Thompson Trust, what should they do? How do they contact I guess, is it you, Joe, that they contact as the chair of the committee? They
actually can contact Gary, who was instrumental in working with our bank to get our own QR code, which hopefully is on our website. If not, it will be very soon. People can go there, use the QR code to make a donation to our initiative.
All right. And you said you have
very simply write a check to the Village of Rhinebeck in care of the Village of Rhinebeck Autism Supportive Committee, and it will automatically go into that fund.
Perfect. So by check or by super technology QR codes on websites. And is there a website that you want people to check out?
Villageofrhinebeck.org, and go to the Autism Supported web page. It's there. That's dedicated to the work that we're doing. And you can see about the history and learn about where we're going.
Okay, fabulous. And I'll just throw out that anybody listening who wants to, who has a question and wants to get to the right person by way of contacting Anderson, we are always happy to pass along messages, inquiries, questions about this process and put you in touch with people on the committee if you contact us here at Anderson as well. So thank you so much, Mayor Gary Bassett from the Village of Rhinebeck and Joe Phelan, Chair of the Autism Supportive Community Committee. We love this partnership just as much, and seeing how it continues is really thrilling for us. So thank you for your time and your commitment, and best of luck in the future.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 36, a weekly presentation of the Anderson Center for Autism. Join them for another edition of the show at this time next weekend.